Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is just basically various topics dated May 29th, 2023, the whole full year that all the prophecies of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai will be fulfilled. I pretty much don't really have anything to go into. I've been watching this video since earlier. You know, the young elders from the New York camp, GMS burn, Babylon burn. And pretty much, you know, they were going into the first part of it, the video, they were going into the chariots. And the title had came to mind, The Chariots Have Always Been Here. But I believe somebody already did a lesson like that, if I'm not mistaken. Then the next part of it, they started speaking about Sodom and Gomorrah, the filthy conversations, and, you know, the general consensus of what's going on right now with America, you know, and the direction it's going with all the Moism going on. Then, you know, they forget the next topic after that. But they were, you know, Spirit was on these brothers. They were going in. And I wanted to do a lesson, but like I said, I didn't really have any particular title, any particular direction to go in. So as the Spirit feeds me, I'll feed you. And in the midst of listening to these brothers, somebody sent me a video, what you see here. Paralyzed man walks after Bluetooth connects his brain and spine, you know, and this is very important because this is that technology that they're using, you know, to bring about this whole new system that they're bringing into play. And it's important because it's all about prophecy. Now, the scriptures, you know, the greatest thing you could do, I mean, there's a lot of offices, you know, in Israel, a lot of different, you know, things that brothers, you know, can get into as far as the work is concerned. But the greatest of them all is prophecy, you know, because the prophet is pretty much the right-hand man, so to speak, you know, because we know the right-hand man of the Most High is Yahweh Shai. But the right hand, as far as the main individuals that Yahweh is dealing with, are the prophets. This is why in Amos chapter 3 and verse 7 it says, "Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets." You see, so now why is this written? Well, because the Most High is not going to make a move until he reveals his plans. And those plans that he's going to do, he reveals them unto his prophets because they are secrets. And before it comes to pass, they, you know, the Lord shows them to his prophets. Now, if you notice the verse prior to this, 7th verse, it says, "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it?" Right. So pretty much what we're seeing here is pretty much, you know, the Lord showing us, you know, what things would happen that he reveals to his prophets prior to them, you know, revealing them, you know, prior to him actually making a move. And this has been the same thing since the beginning of time. It hasn't changed all the way up until May 29, 2023. Jeremiah 28 and 8, "The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old, what did they do? Prophesied." All right, "both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence." And that's the consensus. Then it says, "The prophet which prophesieth of peace," which you have some of these individuals out here that call themselves leaders, pretty much they're prophesying of peace because they're not saying what's happening and what's going to come to pass. You know, they're not warning against the MOTB. They're pretty much trying to put Jake back to sleep. Now, some of them took the bag. Some of them may have not taken the bag. They're just blinded by Satan. But whatever the case may be, whoever falls in whatever category, they are deceiving the people. So they are false prophets. It says the prophet which prophesied the peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord have truly sent him. But we are definitely not in the time of peace. We're in the time, you have the time of war and the time of peace, according to Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. So this is not the time of peace. The time of peace is coming. We're in the time to the buildup of the time of Jacob's trouble. And the time of Jacob's trouble is going to be very detrimental because of the things that are going to take place and the warnings that are going out to Jake out here prior to the Lord unleashing the beast, which is Esau and his demonic agenda. So before the Lord did that or does that, he's sending out the prophets out here to prophesy. He's revealing his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, so that the prophets could go out and tell that, give them warning, of the Lord that these things are coming. And those that hear the word and give heed and do the best that they can to get themselves together and prepare for what's coming, beautiful. Knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of that time, the strength of salvation. But the ones that don't listen, let them be hard-headed, let them be stiff-necked. Because eventually what's going to happen is those same individuals that took the word of the Lord lightly, the Most High is going to have them in serious pain in those days. Whatever it may be. What is that? 4 kinds? What is that? Jeremiah? Is that Jeremiah 15? I have appointed 4 kinds. Yep, Barakateh Bashim Shah. Jeremiah 15:1. I'm sorry, 3. Matter of fact, since the Spirit made me say 1, let me start at 1. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Judgment must come, and it will come. Salakia. So it says, then said the Lord unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me. These are 2 of the greatest prophets and men of the Lord out there. And they represent the law and the prophets. Also Elijah. So even if Moses and Samuel stood before the Lord and pleaded for Israel, yet my mind cannot be towards this people. Why? Because they reject the word of the Lord. And the more that Jake pushes back against the word of the Lord, the more they're going to suffer in the times that are coming. Because these times are going to be very vicious. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. Right. So when the Lord said cast them out of my sight, meaning they're not going to dwell in the secret place of the Most High. They're not going to be protected from the things that are coming. They're going to take the MOTB, the charagma, and guess what? That will seal their fate. And let them go forth. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Right. Then shalt thou tell them, thus saith the Lord, such as are for death to death, such as are for the sword to the sword, such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as for the captivity to the captivity. And all of these things are coming. These things happen not 2,000 years ago. I'll say about 2,700 years ago, during the time of the Babylonian Empire. But also it's going to happen in these times. And everything is laid out the same way. Death is coming, sword is coming, famine is coming, and captivity is coming. Because when they round people up and bring them to these different concentration camps, what is that? That's captivity. That's not freedom. The devil shall cast some of you into prison. Look, even this, this bought and paid for, Alex Jones called it what? Prison Planet. And you see what's going on right now with this prison planet. They're pretty much making everything or bringing everything into a lockdown situation. Because when the whole system goes digital, you're either in the grid or you're out of the grid. Those that are in the grid must comply to all of the rules and regulations of this digital system, which includes getting a C-hip, a micro C-hip, either implanted in your hand, somewhere in your body, in your head, or whatever the case may be, as we see here with this individual. Paralyzed man walks after Bluetooth connects his brain and spine. These are the miracles of Esau. Daniel 12 and 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Now we're at the time of the end. Now is when the prophecies are coming to pass. Many shall run to and fro. Why? Because, and knowledge shall be increased. And back in the days, you would have to take boats, you would have to walk, you would have to be on horseback, horse and buggy, so on and so forth, to get from point A to point B. Now, those times that took days, weeks, months to travel, now can be accomplished within a matter of hours. And knowledge shall be increased. This knowledge is what? This technology that they have, that they're pushing out there to the world. And it's no coincidence that now, in these times, is when all of these things are happening. Never in history have they really had the infrastructure that they have right now and the technology that they have right now to implement this system. This is why it's impossible for the MOTB to have been around any other time in history. Because this was a vision that the Most High gave to one of his great prophets, the Apostle John, of the future of conducting business in this new system, which is the so-called New World Order. All right. And that is the MOTB system, this beast system that is all predicated and surrounded by that 666 number, which is the number of the beast, the number of the man. And the whole system is applied in that. This is why when they took out that patent for, what was that? I forgot what the patent was for. This devil killed Gates. It was 060606. When you watch the movie, I believe it was either Escape from New York or Escape from LA. At the end, the world code was 666. I gotta get something better, because this keeps on. Hopefully. Salake, just bear with me 1 second, because the thing keeps on. Here we go. Just lost my train of thought. But pretty much the whole system is going digital, and never in history have they had that, technology, and the infrastructure in place to do this, so that it's impossible for the MOTB system to be in place. It's in place now because the Lord allowed them to set it up and put it in place, and ever since 2020, they've really, their agenda, got a real push, which they were surprised that the people complied like they did, but it was the Lord that did it. Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it? All right. So going back to Jeremiah 15:3, and I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord, the sword to slay, the dogs to tear, the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and to destroy. Right. And you'll say, well, they don't really use dogs anymore. They don't use dogs to tear anymore. So yeah, this happened back then. But didn't they do that to these, Ishmaelites during so-called 911? Didn't they have them in Abu Ghraib and them different places, Guantanamo Bay and all them different places where they had the dogs. They had the Ishmaelites butt naked, and they had the dogs, they had them blindfolded, and they had the dogs barking at them. Huh? So, and this is something that Esau has always used. They brought dogs of war to America, where they would, and the dogs that they brought with them, they got them accustomed to eating Taino flesh, eat from, the different tribes' flesh. So the dogs grew a taste for that particular type of flesh, So these are the things that are coming. Now, Let's read this again. Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth the secret unto his servants, the prophets. Then it says, the lion hath roared, who will not fear. So when you hear a lion roaring in the jungle, animals are nervous, they're scared. And there's another scripture also that speaks about, shall a lion roar and he have nothing to eat? So he's going to roar after he's eaten. And it's no coincidence that the Most High, Yahweh, compares Esau to a lion. The brother said the cartel used dogs to eat people today. Yep, check that out. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. Now check this out. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as what? As a roaring lion. And who is the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan on the earth? The Edomites, the wicked. So they're as what? Roaring lions, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. See? So he's looking to see who he can devour. And this is why you have all of this confusion going on right now. You have all of this, literal camp banging, which they accuse us of, but we never went around beating up nobody, no camps. You have all of these gimmicks going on, going out, all of these distractions, all of these false teachings, false breakdowns. And every time we go into lessons breaking down the MOTB and they showing you that all these things are happening, you always have a backlash. You always have those that are greatly withstanding these words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Oh man, you brothers. Okay, this is Proverbs 28:15. As a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. And that's beautiful because it brings to mind also Psalms, the 10th chapter. And it speaks about these wicked rulers. It says a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. For King David was not praying for Esau and the other nations to be saved. He was praying for their overthrow. It says, why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? And this is why it says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. As to where Jake is looking at the Bible as like, you brothers, y'all spending your time reading and researching and studying, and, what are y'all doing physically to prepare? Well, we ain't doing nothing physically to prepare. We're doing things spiritually to prepare, because knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of our times and strength of salvation. And the Lord said that when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. So the Lord is going to bring in this divine intervention. All we are to do is to warn you and tell you of the things that are coming. Like it says here in 1 Corinthians 14:39, wherefore, brethren, covet to prophesy and forbid not to speak with tongues. So covet to prophesy, and the main thing we do is prophesy. All right. Let me see if I go back to... All right, cool. Let me see. Just bear with me 1 second. I know there was another one. All right, let's just move on. Back to Psalms 10. So why hidest thyself in the times of trouble? Yeah, because we're being persecuted. Things are happening, but they're not escalated yet. So when all these things start to happen, we're asking the Lord not to hold back. We're asking the Lord to come in with that divine intervention. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. See? Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined, right? Because the wicked shall be taken in their own snares. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, which is what? His new world order. And there's a saying, I'm not sure if that was one of the Rockefellers or who it was, that they will have this new world order. I forget exactly how they put it. If a brother knows what I'm talking about, they can, if they find it, they can post it. We will have a new world order by something or by something, you know, but I can't really remember the whole quote. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the Rockefellers that said that. So they're boasting of their heart's desire. They're boasting of the things that they're going to do. For the wicked boasteth of his heart desire, and blessed the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. It says, the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. These devils do not believe in the Most High. These nations, you know, they don't really believe in the Most High either, because their God is what? Money. Money is what moves them spiritually. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. Right, because they can't see spirituality because they are not spiritual. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. Right, so he's puffing at the enemies. You know, and everyone is an enemy to this devil. This is a good one. So like, I'm not reading all the scriptures that brothers are putting up. Psalm 73 and 8. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Right. It says, as for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. And this is the key. It's full of fraud. But they're painting it as it's going to be, you know, something that's going to help the people, but it's not. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places of doth he murder the innocent. See? And how is he sitting in the secret place, in the lurking places of the villages? By the legislation that they're passing. You know? So just bear with me 1 second. This GMS hasten to preach by. Is that the brother found George W. Bush Senior W. I think this link New World Order Summit 2020. Is this the brother Bunsapat? He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor, right? And that's how are they murdering? By the legislation they're passing and by the, you know, intents that they have behind that legislation. You know? It says, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den, right? And that's how they're doing it, through the legislation. That's why the scriptures say he shall speak as a dragon. Okay, what about the brother here, GMS hasten to preach ba? Hasten to preach ba. I believe that's the brother Bonsapat from the Dallas camp, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Maybe he had a different page. All right, so he's okay. Now, the reason why I asked is because I'm gonna add you as a moderator. Shalom, brother Yabshim Shah Brakatha, and Yabshim Shah Brakathum to all of the sincere. Yeah, so I just gave you a wrench, so that way, you know, if anybody gets fresh, you can knock them in the head with the wrench. All right, so let's go. So it says, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he what? Draweth him in his net. What is his net? Or what is a net? A net is a trap. And this is why this legislation that they're passing will become a trap. This is why they say speak as a dragon. You know? They will speak as a dragon. Why? Because they will push their legislation, and once the legislation is in place, that's why Micah is written. Because once the legislation is in place, right, it says here, woe, Micah 2:1, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. Why do they covet fields and take them by violence? Because they put legislation in place that justifies them taking over. And if you default on a loan or whatever the case may be, that gives them the right to move in. So seeing that they have control of the money and they're valuing the money by the day, that those bills that you have to pay become harder and harder to pay. You keep falling behind and behind, and therefore you default on your payments or whatever the case may be, and that gives them the ability to go in there and do what? Evict you. And when they evict you, what they do, they take it by violence. They send the sheriffs up in there, they throw all your shit out, and then they take your shit. It says, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. All right. So going back to the word net, which is a trap. This is their legislation. The word is rashath. The word yorash is possess. It says net for what? Catching. And that's how they catch people. They don't have an actual net out there, like in the Planet of the Apes, and you run by and then they trap you up in the trap. No, the trap is set up in the form of this legislation that they push out there. And once they got you ensnared or trapped up in that web of legislation, now it justifies them taking away everything from you. This is why one of their slogans is what? You will own nothing and be happy. Because they're going to take everything from you. They're going to set you up in a situation, living quarters, food and all of that. And they're only going to give you just enough to get by. Just to get by, That's all they're going to give you, just enough to get by. And as you saw in that one short cartoon that they made, an animation, pretty much they showed you how, here it is, they put you up, room and board, they give you, food, rations, all that, whatever the case may be. And then once your check comes in, they deduct all of that from your check, and you're left with very little to nothing. And if you don't use that very little to nothing within a 7-day period or whatever the case may be, they take it away from you. So you will own nothing and be happy. And all of that is going to be done how? Predicated upon the digital system that they have in place and the ability to function in that system. And if you don't have the key to the system, you won't be able to partake, which is the MOTB, whether in the hand or the brain. And they'll be able to do all of these miraculous things. They'll be able to give you the Elysium treatment, because you are a part of their system. You are a slave for life. You have been branded for life, So let's see what else we got. All right, so let's go back. It says here, as a trap for man, see? Network, brazen from altar or tabernacle. So, well, that's going into something else. But as a trap for man. You see? A net as catching animals. And to these people, we're all considered to be animals. That's what they call everybody Goyim, which they say Goyim means cattle, but really Goyim means nations. It really doesn't mean cattle. But that's what they say it means. So, since they're in charge, of course they're going to say, well, it means this, it don't mean that. Shut the fuck up. Psalms 10:9. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. And what are his strong ones? These are the troops that are going to be set up in place, whether foreign or domestic. Foreign from other nations or domestic from within the U.S. They're going to enforce these things. This is why it says that, they shall be as madmen sparing none. Matter of fact, let's type in Madmen. Let's see what madmen definition means. Let's just see if they have a definition for that. All right, here we go. We got madman. Madman, a man who is mentally ill, an extremely foolish or reckless person, which brings to mind Isaiah 32. The churl, which are the foolish. It says Isaiah 32:5, the vile person shall be no more called liberal, right? Because these devils are vile. They are people of no name. Let's see what the word of Nabal, which is fool. The word Nabal or Nabal is a foolish person, senseless. Because what they're doing, right, in their mind it makes sense. But when you really look at the outcome of it, it's destroying everything. They're destroying the natural course of the world. Everything that they do makes things go out of order. The vile person shall no more be called liberal. Let's see what it says for liberal. Because they pride themselves in that, but they're not. The word there is nadayab. Goes back to the word nadab. Inclined, willing, noble, right. Generous. Noble or generous. And they're far from noble. They're far from generous. They're nothing more than the devil that the Bible speaks of. They're nothing more than the basis of men. They are not noble. They have taken over that spot of being noble or being in nobility. And a lot of information is now coming out that kings and queens of England and certain other places were so-called black. You see? Because all of the information is coming out. It's leaking on this devil. The faucet of truth is leaking out on this devil. It's turned all the way on. They can't turn it off anymore. There's too many streams of truth coming out, hitting them from all different angles. Ecclesiastes 10:7. I have seen servants upon horses, and we see that these devils, which are the basis of men, these devils which are viler than the earth, these devils which are devils of no name, they are sitting on horses like if they are the nobles of the world, and they are not. They've gone so far as even painting themselves as the Most High, Yahweh Shai, the angels and the Israelites. And princes walking as servants upon the earth, while the Israelites, the princes of the power, are walking as servants upon the earth. And we've made to serve these devils because it was a punishment. But our punishment is up. See? Our punishment is up. That's why it says, comfort ye, my people. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem. Tell her that her warfare is accomplished. She has received double. You know? So now these devils are walking around like if they're the nobles. And that's not going to be anymore. You're not going to see the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and these so-called rich families of this world, Edomite rich families of this world, in the kingdom walking around with that pompous royal mentality. Because they're going to go right down to where they belong. We're going to be trading places, as one of my favorite scriptures in the book of Lamentations. Matter of fact, let me get that. I love this scripture. I remember when I first read it, I was like, wow. You know, that this thing hit me like a ton of bricks. Lamentation 121, they have heard that I sigh. There is none to comfort me. Right, and that's the position that we're in. All mine enemies have heard of my trouble. Right, that's dealing with Esau, the other nations. They are glad that thou hast done it. They are glad that you brought us down to this low state. Thou will bring the day that thou hast called, because there is a day of reckoning coming. And they, all of our enemies, including Esau, shall be like unto me. This is the trading places scripture. So going back, so the vile person or the foolish person or the senseless person shall no more be called liberal. They're not going to be called nobles. Nor the churl, which is the foolish, kayalaya, scoundrel, knave, niggardly, a scoundrel, dirty, rotten scoundrel, man. Guy's a goddamn scoundrel. A dishonest or unscrupulous person. Well, not foolish, but a dishonest or unscrupulous person. You know, a rogue. They look. Let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. Why? Because concerning the truth, concerning righteousness, Esau is rogue. All right, so they are dishonest and unscrupulous. They are rogue. They are foreign to righteousness. So no longer will it be said that these scoundrels, right, are bountiful, because they're not going to continue to increase their riches. Because those riches, matter of fact, that's Ecclesiastes, I believe that's 8. Right. Ecclesiastes 8:9. All this have I seen and apply my heart unto every work that is done under the sun. There is a time wherein one man ruleth over another to his own hurt. Right. And let's go to Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 8. He that, sorry, that's not it. Right. Yeah, it was 8. He that by usury and unjust gain. See, this is the churl. They're not going to be bountiful anymore. He that by usury, what is usury? Interest. You got money out here that is the world reserve currency that is not worth the paper that is printed on. And they are charging people exorbitant amount of interest, which is putting people more and more into debt. This is why these nations are opting out of the USD. He that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. So they're gathering it for the Most High that's going to give it to us. So there's going to be a great wealth transfer that's going to take place in the world, because riches are never lost. They're just transferred from one hand to another. Riches, land, don't lose value. Ecclesiastes 10:8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by what? Deceit. The kingdom is translated from one person to another. See? It's translated from one person to another. Translated, transferred. Given from one hand to another. Emancipated, if you will. So Proverbs 28:8, he that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will what? Pity the poor. So Shawai is independent, noble, free, rich, generous, right? Perhaps worker. So these individuals that are churl, the scoundrels, the unscrupulous people, are not going to be bountiful. They're not going to increase, and they're not going to be rich. They're not going to increase. Why? Because all of that is going to be transferred to us, to the Israelites. That's your Isaiah 60, Isaiah 61, and many other scriptures, that shows the great wealth transfer from the nations, beginning to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and then trickling down to us. Right, see, like the brother put, Napoleon said, if we charge usury due to compounding interest, why? Because the money is not really worth anything. And even if it is, the debt continues to mount up, because you've got to pay. There's a premium you have to pay. And this is why the scriptures speak about not selling upon usury if your brother becomes poor. It says, in a very short time, they will own everything. And that's exactly what they did. So, let's see what else we got. For the vile person will speak villainy, and his heart will work iniquity to practice hypocrisy. And that's all it is. It's all hypocrisy. And to utter error against the Lord. Right. Because everything that they're doing goes contrary to the Most High, to make empty the soul of the hungry. And that's what they're doing. And he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. And this is why they say you will own nothing and be happy. And this is why this whole new system is going to be set up and established as Esau being the god of the earth. All right. So back to Psalms 10 and 10, he crouches and humbles himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, the Most High hath forgotten. He hideth his face. He will never see it. Right. Because they think that the Most High is on their side, which he was to a certain degree because it was a punishment. He's the Most High's whipping stick. But now that's up. That's why I said you didn't consider your latter end. You didn't show my people no mercy. And you didn't consider the latter end of this. It says, arise, O Lord, O Most High, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. And the Lord is not going to forget the humble. You know, the Lord said he's going to deliver the island of the innocent. Wherefore doth the wicked man contemn the Most High? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Right? Because it's been so long that these devils think the Most High forgot about paying them back for what they did to us. You know? This is another good one. Ecclesiastes 5:13. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners to their hurt, and that's actually the one I was looking for. All right. Let me read a little more of this. It said, thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite to requite it with thy hand. Right. Because the Lord is going to require it. He's going to bring the vengeance. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. That's right. Break down the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Right. Because King David saw far off, as he said in Psalm 60, who will lead me into Edom, who will lead me into the strong city. He saw in the future, because King David was also a prophet. He saw in the future that Esau would be in great power. And he was asking the Lord, who was going to lead me into Edom? Who was going to, bring me into that strong tower? It wasn't talking about back then because they were kicking Esau in the ass. Seek out his wickedness, and that shows you that Esau would be around today, that they were not to be done away with. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land, right? Because the time of the heathen will be fulfilled. Jerusalem would be trodden down until the time of the heathen would be fulfilled. And whence Yahushua comes back, there will be no heathens in that land. But there's still heathens in that land. There will be no more war on the planet. There's still war on the planet. There will be no more weapons of war on the planet. There's still weapons of war on the planet. Lord, thou hast, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Right, and this devil has to fall. I'll leave you with this last one. I believe that's Isaiah 26 and 18. We have been with child, we have been in pain. Right, and we're right now like a woman in travail. And it's going to get worse. Remember, the closer the baby comes, the closer it comes for the baby to be delivered, the more intense the pain. We have, as it were, brought forth wind, right? Because we haven't wrought any deliverance. Even Jeremiah said the summer is ended and we are not saved. We have not wrought any deliverance in the earth, right? Because all nations are living it up. We ain't living it up. Or, those Latin tribes, they doing good. No, those are the Edomites that are in charge. But the indigenous people of those lands are catching hell, holy hell, under these devils. So get your facts right. Neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. Who are the inhabitants of the world? The ones that are in charge. And they haven't fallen yet. But they will fall very soon. All right. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.